The final silence did not arrive with a gunshot or a scream. It arrived with understanding. At 4:19 a.m., Detective Aaron Kincaid stood alone outside the abandoned St. Maro Community Center, a forgotten building on the edge of Hollow Creek that once hosted charity meals, financial literacy workshops, and Thanksgiving drives sponsored by none other than Thomas Hale himself. The security lights flickered weakly, casting long shadows over cracked pavement, and banners still faded from a decade-old campaign that read, "Gratitude builds communities." Aaron checked the anonymous message again. Coordinates, time. One instruction, come alone. The air carried the scent of winter and something else, old paper, dust, and the quiet weight of history. Inside, the wooden doors creaked open as if they had been waiting for him, and the hollow echoes of his footsteps filled the corridor where children once queued for donated meals during the economic downturn of 2020. In the main hall, a single table stood in the center, set for one, a Thanksgiving plate, a glass of untouched wine, and a small projector humming softly against the far wall. Aaron didn't sit. He watched. The projector flickered to life, casting rainy footage across the peeling brick. Images of protests in 2022. Families standing outside banks after the 2024 digital investment crash. News clips of layoffs from Silicon Valley to Detroit. Farmers in Ohio struggling under debt. Small business closures in Atlanta. Pensioners in Arizona interviewed about funds that vanished overnight. And threaded through every frame, almost invisible unless you looked closely, was Thomas Hale on news panels, at closed-door conferences, posing with startup founders who later disappeared from public memory. Applauded in glossy magazines as a quiet architect of modern financial strategy. A voice filled the hall, the same one from the viral video, calm, measured, unhurried. You looked for a monster when what you should have looked for was a ledger. Aaron's jaw tightened. You murdered him? No, the voice corrected gently. I ended him. There is a difference. The screen shifted again, now showing a blurred silhouette seated behind a frosted glass screen. A figure, faceless, ageless, genderless. Thomas Hale built stability for a few and collapse for thousands, the voice continued. He signed away pensions without signatures. He moved numbers that erased homes. He thanked donors while ignoring the families sleeping in their cars a mile from his office. Aaron clenched his fists. So you decided to become executioner? A pause. I became memory. Images flashed now of old emails, contracts, and ethical red flags hidden under corporate jargon. Notes Thomas had buried. People who tried to speak and were silenced by legal walls and reputational ruin. Gratitude remembers everything, the voice said. Not as vengeance. As balance? Aaron stepped forward slightly. Then why the spectacle? The blackout? The fear? Because the world only listens when silence becomes uncomfortable. The screen flickered once more. Now it showed Thomas Hale late at night, filmed unknowingly through his own laptop camera, days before his death. His face pale, his eyes tired. I know they're coming, Thomas whispered to someone off-screen. Not police, worse, the ones who remember. Aaron felt a slow realization settle in. Thomas had known. He had known, and still waited. The silhouette leaned forward, voice softer, now almost reflective. He could have confessed. He could have returned what was stolen. He could have spoken when speaking still had value. Instead, he chose comfort. And your solution was to terrify a town? Aaron asked. To wake it, the projector powered down abruptly. The hall plunged into darkness, broken only by the thin light from the entrance behind Aaron. When his flashlight snapped on, the table was empty, the plate untouched, the projector gone. No footsteps, no sign of escape. Only a single envelope resting where the screen had been. Inside was a slim file and one final page. Not angry, not threatening, almost merciful. Thanksgiving ends when gratitude becomes action. Tell them to remember. By morning, Hollow Creek awoke to a silence different from fear. News cycles shifted from speculation to reflection. The video vanished permanently. The forums went cold. The blackout was labeled a technical anomaly. Thomas Hale's name faded slowly from headlines, replaced by uncomfortable conversations about accountability, financial ethics, and the unseen cost of modern prosperity. Aaron submitted his final report with a conclusion that would haunt him for years. No suspect identified, no weapon recovered, no further threat detected. Yet 3 people anonymously received financial settlements that very week. A laid-off teacher in Cleveland, a widowed nurse in Sacramento, a displaced family in Newark. Amounts matching exact figures Thomas Hale had once rerouted from their accounts. On the last cold night of November, as the town locked its doors and the season shifted toward winter, Aaron returned home and opened his laptop to an anonymous email that had just arrived. No sender, no timestamp, only a few words on a blank screen. Gratitude never forgets. Neither should you. Outside, snow began to fall, quiet and endless, covering streets that looked ordinary again. But somewhere in the unseen spaces of the world, between digital shadows and moral debt, the ledger remained open. Not for revenge, not for chaos, only for the next name that believed Thanksgiving was just a tradition and not a reckoning.